Hey y'all, and welcome back. I know it's been a couple weeks since I did a video. There's been a lot going on. I've been needing to make a video, about that stuff. It's been hard to kind of sum up how I feel. My mind and emotions going in so many directions with everything that's going on. Right now we're living in crazy time. I mean, almost everybody I've talked to has lost friends in this time, and I am no different. It's really sad. I lost a friend who I considered to be, one of my best friends, and it wasn't even anything that I had to say against her. It was something, it was a conversation that me and her boyfriend had, and I'm not going to get in too much with it, but she just hasn't reached out, and I've reached out to her, and that's kind of it. And I know a lot of people in society right now are going through the same things. Like I said, almost everybody I've talked to, whether it's because of disagreements on, COVID practices, how quarantine we should stay, or whether it's on, on the riots and stuff like that. And it's really hard. And honestly, so this is the first video I've done where I actually wrote out everything I want to say, because I want to be very precise. So if it seems like I'm reading, it's because I am. It was the only way that I could actually put my feelings into an organized manner, right? Because there's a lot. It's not just, the police issues, the riot issues, policy issues, the COVID issues, but there's also a lot of, just stuff going on in the trans community that I really, it's hard to watch. So I kind of want to get into it. First and foremost, I think you guys have seen my other video. If you saw my last video, it was trying to spread hope and joy, because that's really what I'm trying to do here. I don't support violence in any means. Really in any means. I am a self-defense proponent, obviously, but I believe in NAP. I'm a libertarian. We agree. We have the non-aggression principle, and just seeing cities torn apart. So I don't agree and support violence against other citizens, especially. And I've always been true to who I am, and that's all I can be, and that's one of the reasons why I have friends that have left my side, because I am me, and they agree, or they don't agree with just peaceful protests. And it's sad, but life goes on. But again, so let's get into that topic. I made that video a couple weeks ago, and I think George Floyd's brother said it best.
In every case of police brutality, the same thing has been happening. Y'all protest, y'all destroy stuff, and they don't move. You know why they don't move? Because it's not their stuff, it's our stuff. So they want us to destroy our stuff.
Come on, Doc.
They're not gonna move. So let's do this another way.
Don't burn down your own community. That's not their stuff. That's our stuff. I could give a shit about the police precinct. Other than that is paid for by the people in that community's tax dollars. It's public property. It's a little bit different than, going and burning down somebody's store or murdering somebody that's trying to protect their store, looting the grocery stores. I mean, there's videos out there now. People can't even go and get their food for their kids because their grocery store was completely destroyed. And now you're seeing exactly what I predicted. You're seeing that these bigger companies are moving out of these areas that were looted. They were looted and burned, and they're like, we're not going to build back up here, and that's hurts the community just as much. But I really want to get into a little bit more what's going on too. Police brutality in this country is a big issue. Not even I'm not even to go into whether it's a black or white issue, racially or even systemically, right? So if it's not necessarily an easy solution. I think the biggest and the number one issue that surrounds police brutality is qualified immunity. So this essentially tells police they are above the law. So unless it has been proven that a rule was previously established, like for say, the police rules don't specifically say that a chokehold are not allowed, then a cop has immunity to use a chokehold even if it kills somebody. The police in the U.S. are allowed to get away with more than our soldiers in Afghanistan. I mean, we just had a Green Beret. Thankfully, the charges were dropped, but he was on trial for assaulting an Afghan official because we found out that he touched little boys. Our Green Beret was held accountable for assaulting an Afghan official because he was molesting children. Think about that for a second. If that happened here, anybody in their right mind would not be charged in that instance. I mean, nobody. Soldiers overseas are taught with the rules of engagement that even if an insurgent is firing at you 1 second, as soon as they drop their weapon, they're no longer an enemy combatant, and you can't kill them. You have to detain them and then take them in. You can't kill them or else that's murder. That is not the case with police in the U.S. And so what I urge you to do is go and support Justin Amash's bill. So Justin Amash's bill in the House right now has a lot of Democratic support, but we need to get our Republicans on board to support the bill to end qualified immunity. As well, Rand Paul has a bill in the Senate that will end no-knock warrants. Now, no-knock warrants they're basically asking to kill somebody, right? And that is how Breonna Taylor lost her life. Mistakenly, they no-knocked the wrong place and killed an innocent black woman. That needs to change, right? I mean, and there's many others in the past few years that's happened to. Even executing red flag laws in some states, again, that's use no-knock warrants. That's just basically asking permission to murder the person that's inside that you're executing that on. And for me, as a gun owner and a Second Amendment supporter, if you come by my house unannounced, you try to break in unannounced, me and a few of those officers are probably not going to make it out alive. It's just really what it is, because I don't know if you are police officers or if you're an intruder trying to come in and either rob me or murder me or anything else. So I am going to shoot back. You are risking the lives of police officers, and you're risking the lives of people who you might just need to take in. You're risking murder in those situations, and I just know what would happen if I was in that situation. It's just asking for murdering of innocent civilians. I think the best thing to do is go out and support those bills. Support those people. It's two libertarians, which is great. I think it's awesome. But like I said, Justin Amash, I mean, he had his issues with the president, so no Republicans are getting on his bill, even though most of the Democrats got on it. Rand Paul's a Republican, but more of a libertarian, and it doesn't seem like his bill's getting any traction anywhere. So we need to, get our Congress involved in, eliminating those procedures and those immunities that are harming our people. One of the reasons why I haven't been on so much lately is because the last 2 weeks I've been working and trying to find people, especially on Twitter, that that can come on and discuss a lot of these issues when it comes to police force and racial issues and everything like that in the country. I want to have the conversation. Everybody should know that this is not a debate channel. This is a conversation channel. I actually want to get to the root cause of the issues. I just want to have conversations. I have a confirmation from one of my right-leaning friends at Twitter is at Real Wendy Bell. She's a right-leaning black woman who I absolutely adore. I am still trying to get somebody from the left. I reach out to a couple people that, they seem to be making really good points. I even retweeted some of them. And yet, nothing. I haven't received even a response back from, it's been about 5 people that I've reached out to on the left. Nobody wants to come on and have a conversation. I've received responses from everybody I know on the right. Even accounts that have, 100,000 followers, I've received responses from. So what me and Wendy decided that we're going to still do a video, and we're going to film it next week. I'm still working on the time and everything like that, the date and time. So I'm not going to get too far into what we're going to talk about there. I think we're just yelling back and forth right now in this current climate, and I want to make real changes, But I'm also white, which in this climate and these discussions, that makes a difference. So if I offer solutions that are not in line with the leftist liberals, I'm deemed a racist. That is why I want to use this platform to give a voice to both sides. Have people listen to arguments and make up their own minds. Now, I would like to say that this woman right here is absolutely spot on with what I believe.
I would be in the same position you're in, so I'm not even mad at you, baby, for feeling like fake news. This is the thing. I know people don't like Trump. I understand that. But let me tell you something. If I had to pick between him and Joe Biden, I'm not voting in Joe Biden. You want to see a bunch of black people go to jail by the next 4 years? Put Joe Biden in. Watch what happens. You want to see black men get killed substantially? Like you've never seen before? Put Joe Biden in and watch what happens. These Democrats, and I'm sorry to say this, I'm not trying to be racist, but they hate black people. These are the same people who fought to keep slavery in. These are the same people who built the KKK. These are the same people who hated us from the beginning. The Republican Party is the party of the blacks. Blacks free, the Republican Party is the only party that the black people actually assisted in finding. But all of that history has been torn away. People say, oh, there was this big switch. There was never a big switch. The Union won because we had grown in the industrial era. So we were able to get trains and get supplies back to our soldiers while the Confederate was still riding horses. They were not able to get supplies back fast enough, right? So what happened was once slavery was abolished in the South, the people in the South could no longer make their money from slaves. They had to move to the North to work in the industry to produce. And so the people in the North that already had established themselves in the industry moved to the South. And so that's where it was a transfer of people coming from the South to the North and people coming from the North to the South. There was never a big switch. So the same Democrats who hated black people from the beginning are the same ones who hate us now. And they use our cause. How did Black Lives Matter turn into something about LGBTQ? When blacks really don't support that. We're conservative. We really not about that. Not only that, we don't support abortion. We about work. This is the black culture. We ain't ever been about that. Not only that, we not about feminism. No, we're not. Black women marry their husbands and respect their husbands. That's what we on. We not on this, oh, I do what I want. We don't do that. That's not our community, and you would understand. I know you understand what I'm saying. We don't do that. But yet these people are hijacking our movement, and the Democratic Party, they're trying to hijack our stuff.
She's absolutely right. So we'll talk about that next week with Wendy. And we'll just give her a voice, give her give her the floor, most of it, and we'll discuss the issues. Hopefully, putting out this video today, if you know somebody who really can come and talk, their side, Black Lives Matters movement, and we'll talk the issues. If somebody comes on from that channel, I would love it. But right now, it's just me and Wendy. So if you know somebody, send them this clip. We'll talk the issues. It is interesting, though. A lot of people on the far left, they use these feeling-based arguments only when it matches up with their side, right? For example, it's always interesting when I see videos of or comments on Candace Owens' videos, right? So there was a video, I think it was last year, white Antifa members calling Candace Owens all sorts of racial slurs. And they were backed by the media, and it was basically a non-issue because, again, she's a conservative. She has a conservative voice and she has a lot out there. I think Candace makes some really good points sometimes. I also think she misses the mark way too often. But she gets you to think. For example, the George Floyd incident and everything, and the Rayshard Brooks incident in Atlanta. She's come out and basically said these two people are not heroes. They're not people that the left should be propping up. They're not people that we should be propping up as social justice heroes. And the reason she says this is because both of them have past criminal records. Well, so that's the only part that liberals want to hear. But she also goes on to say neither one of them, deserved to be murdered. She says, I hope their families receive justice, which people don't want to really talk about. So she's pointing out, and I think it's a bad time to be pointing stuff like that out because she's almost trying, it sounds like she's trying to justify it, but she's getting you to think, like, why are you holding these people to such a, powerful position that, like, they're heroes? When they were, committing crimes, in the act of committing crimes, even without how petty. Now, we can, I definitely don't think that anybody should be subjected to, police officers being, the judge, jury, and executioner on these issues. I think that's absolutely wrong. I think I made that clear when I talked about police brutality earlier. It's interesting to watch in these instances. But now, so now let's talk about Atlanta. You know, as you guys know, this is my backyard. You know, we had many officers in the Fulton County Police Department call in the other day after the charges were filed in the Rashad Brooks case. So, if you guys want to know, so Fulton County is the main city limits of Atlanta plus South Atlanta. And so it was southeast, southwest, and East Atlanta that had police officers phoning in. So more North Atlanta is Cobb County. So it's not really the same DA. It's not the same jurisdiction. But Fulton County is the main one for the Atlanta Police Department. Honestly, I don't know how police officers in Atlanta are still on the job today. I don't know how police officers around this country are still on the job today. I mean, but especially in Fulton County. So the DA charged the police officer involved in the Rashad Brooks shooting with murder, on top of other charges. And I believe he did so for political reasons, and here is why. So, now, for murder, on account of other charges, I believe he did so for political reasons. Now, for the other charges, I have to wait and see. I haven't seen any other evidence to see why he was charged with some of the other stuff. So those are not what I'm talking about. I'm specifically talking about the murder charge. So what we need to do is go back, think about the situation. Okay, so Rashad Brooks is being arrested. You know, everything was going smoothly for everybody involved. So he was compliant with officers. The officers were nice to him. Everything was going smoothly until they went to put the handcuffs on. That is when Mr. Brooks fought the police, and I have no idea how he bested those two police officers. While being tased, he was getting soft tased because they didn't have the prods. They were just tasing him on the leg, but he got tased. That didn't stop him. He grabs the taser out of the police officer's hand, which is on top of him, and then somehow gets on top and runs away and begins running away. At that point, that police officer that lost his taser immediately starts yelling, "He's got my taser, he's got my taser, he's got my taser," and the other police officer actually shoots him with his taser, and he runs through it. Okay? So we find out later that the reason why he didn't want to be arrested was because he had multiple felonies. So this would have been a very large charge on him. We all know that even sitting in your car with the engine running constitute as a DUI. If there's no engine running, then technically, even if you're on the side of the road, that's not a DUI. From what I know. Police officers, you guys can tell me differently, but as long as the keys are not in the ignition, they really can't prove how you got there, right? But what happens, he's running away, and he's got the police officer's taser in one hand. As the officer gets close and is getting close to being able to tackle him, Mr. Brooks turns around with the taser and shoots it at the police officer. And with about 1 second after that, which you can even attribute to taser goes, shot fired. It's like that's how long it took the brain to register that there was a threat against him, right? That's how long it took the brain to register that to pull the trigger. It happened that fast. Just you can watch the video. You know, even with him not wanting to go to jail and having a prior record, that doesn't excuse him being killed by police, right? But here's the thing. We also know that the investigation team hasn't even completed their full investigation. So, one, the DA made this charge without the recommendation of investigators. He made it all on his own. So that's the first reason why it's political. So, two, he made the charge because he said Brooks was not a threat to the life of the officer. Except, just 2 weeks ago, when a taser was used against college students, he said, according to Georgia law, a taser is considered a deadly weapon.
And charged with aggravated assault of Ms. Pilgrim, and this is for pointing a taser at Mrs. Pilgrim. And many of you all know under Georgia law, a taser is considered as a deadly weapon under Georgia law.
So think about that for a second. A taser is a deadly weapon when in the hands of an officer, but not a man who is resisting arrest and shoots it at the cops. And what makes it really worse is the DA is up for re-election this year. So in Georgia, the DA is an elected position. And I think he just wanted to please the crowd. Now what's going to happen is the officer is going to get off because it's not a murder charge. Because, as he stated, a taser is a deadly weapon in the state of Georgia. If that is the case, that officer is fully justified in discharging a firearm to protect his own life when that weapon is pointed at him. And then what we're going to see is we're going to see riots. I'm calling it right now. That's exactly what's going to happen. You know, so I don't know how officers are supposed to risk their lives and be in fear of having to use force. Because every time they discharge that weapon, they're going to be wondered if they're going to be prosecuted for murder. But I want to see what other evidence that they have, though. We'll see what happens. But that's my prediction right now. He's going to get off, and at least on the murder charge, and there's going to be riots in the streets of Atlanta. I don't know. It's a sad situation all around. Okay. Now, kind of going in a completely other direction here. I want to talk about, trans issues and J.K. Rowling. And somebody asked me to talk about this. I didn't want to talk about this. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's been played out. And then it happens at a really interesting time, right as the Supreme Court case about LGBT issues was ruled on. But they actually tie together quite well, so you'll see at the end how I kind of tie these two together. It's pretty interesting, right? And so, those of you that don't know, J.K. Rowling has been in hot water with trans activists. In the last couple weeks, but she's been in hot water for quite a while now with trans activists for believing in biological sex, for speaking on biological sex. And for that, she has been called a TERF, a transphobe, and so much more. she even garnered a response from MMA fighter Fallon Fox, who, if you don't know who Fallon Fox is, so she's a fighter, and she's a trans woman fighter and mixed martial arts. She broke one woman's skull, and she sent 2 others to the hospital while she was in the ring. Now, again, she's biologically male. She went through male puberty. She has advantages for that. She even bragged on Twitter this week when people challenged her to get the story straight, and she said she loved beating up women. That is who you are dealing with when you're dealing with Fallon Fox. Now, if you don't know, I responded as well to Fallon. And here's the tweet. Okay. She blocked me immediately. Like, immediately. She blocked me. Because she can't argue her point against another trans woman. She has to call other people turfs and everything like else. And not even just another trans woman. I wrestled for 18 years. I did Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, Army combatives. I was in the Army for 7.5 years. I was a pretty good fighter. I've had my nose broken like 5 times. So I've been hit. I've been in fights. I would love to step in the ring and fight her, even though she's probably about 10 pounds heavier than me. If I was cutting weight, I wouldn't even have to cut to make her weight class. I would love to get in the ring and fight, to show her that, we have a biological advantage. We do. I would never step in the ring with a biological female. When I was wrestling and even doing jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, I've never lost to a female. So it would be really shitty of me, even though I have lost strength, I have lost some of that advantage. I haven't lost it all. It would be an awful thing to do, because I know it's completely unfair. Let's get back to Rowling, J.K. Rowling. So let's look at her recent foray, shall we? She responded to an article about the effects of COVID on people who menstruate. She took that because it's a medical term and said you could also just say women. I don't see what's wrong with that. As basically, because only biological women menstruate. Not all do. So there's kind of the thing that only biological women do, but not all of them do. A lot of people said that was a transphobic statement because she left out and didn't include non-binary people and trans men. Well, here's the thing. You have to acknowledge biological sex, especially in medical terms. When you're talking medical community, you have to talk biological sex. Even very well-known trans activist who's been around forever, Buck Angel, trans man, who, he gets heat too, but he paved the way for trans people. He really did. He was one of the first. He was one of the first fighting. He paved the way, and now he's getting called all sorts of names because he supports biological sex, like by all these young kids who don't even know what he did for the community. He's a biological female, but he's a trans man, and he is now standing up and supporting J.K. Rowling. I think that is a big thing. And now, before I get, the comments and, the people in the comment section that's saying, nobody is saying that biological sex doesn't exist, well, you're wrong. Because I can show you 1,000 tweets where people are saying that biological sex is non-existent or it's fluid. Honestly, go to Reddit, you'll see everything. There's so much on that page that is so wrong. All the trans pages, I think I've mentioned it before, they don't let me comment anymore because they don't like me. Because they deny biological sex. But going back to the point I made about Candace Owens, it's about the left. It's crazy because me, as a trans woman, have been called so many names. I've been called a TERF. Well, I'm not a radical feminist, so that doesn't really make sense. I believe we should be making TERF mean something new, right? I like Ariel's use of it, which is trans embracing rational feminist. So if that's the case, then yeah, okay, I'm a TERF because I love trans people. I support, but I'm rational. I've been called a trans traitor. I've been called a transphobe. And guess what? By cis men. Because I've stood up for J.K. Rowling. Tell me how that even completely meets the logic. You tell somebody like Ariel Scarcella she can't talk about trans women invading, and it's because it's a woman's issue. It's not a trans woman's issue. But you tell Ariel she can't talk about it because she's not trans. But then a cis man can tell me, that I'm a transphobe, can tell me to sit down? I don't think so. That doesn't meet even the logic that they're talking about. So again, unless you meet the standards and you are a groupthink person with the left, so now I want to talk about why that is so interesting with the latest Supreme Court ruling, right? So, if you haven't heard, on Monday, the Supreme Court ruled that LGBT people can't be fired because they are LGBT. It was a huge day. It was a big day for a lot of people, including me. I think it was the right decision made. It's interesting because it was only in the news for one day. And here's why. So, Trump's pick for the Supreme Court Justice, Gorsuch, was the one that wrote the majority opinion. That, for one, is going to be... It's going to be hard for activists to celebrate that. And second, the determination was based on biological sex. Okay? And here's how. So the Supreme Court wrote that a company cannot fire a man for having a husband because they would never do that if a woman has a husband, right? They also said if a biological man or trans woman wears a dress or any outfit that is appropriate under the women's dress code, then that is also discriminating based on the person's sex. So after the ruling, it dropped from the news. Because then, as I was explaining before, the left in the mainstream media would have to come out and say, they basically have to celebrate that sex, biological sex, exists. So they hid the story, in my opinion. They hid the story because biological sex was the determining factor for their own protections. I will also note that the dissent was not because of LGBT issues. Those justices don't hate the issues, the LGBT community either. In fact, Trump's other nominee, Justice Kavanaugh, said as much in his in the dissenting opinion that he wrote. And it says, and I read, the best way for us judges to demonstrate that we are deciding cases based on the original meaning of the law is to walk the walk, even in the hard cases when we might prefer a different policy outcome. Meaning, I mean, he agreed with the decision, but it's not, he didn't agree that it was the place of the court to make the law say what they want. You know, I think both sides have valid points. Obviously, I'm happy with what happened. Overall, as a total body, I've been pretty happy with the justices that President Trump has picked. He seems to have picked actually pretty libertarian, constitutionalist justices, which is great. And I think I think that's Supreme Court justices need to be apolitical. You know, they need to be people that, even when their own politics disagree, their own opinions disagree, they can look at the Constitution and know what it's saying. And I absolutely believe that both of them have gone against Trump on a few issues. You know, I think neither one of them seems to be playing for just conservatives. It really is not. So I think I'm pretty happy with the two justices so far. With all that said, though, again, thanks for watching. I can't wait. I'm going to be doing some more videos again here soon. You know, this week I have going with my friend Wendy. But come on now. We need to stop this nonsense. I want to be bringing you guys uplifting videos. I don't want to be down here in the weeds talking about all the issues of the day. You know, I don't want to be that person. I want to have good conversations with everybody. I want to get back to making content that is, you know, uplifting, informative. But right now, this is what's been on my mind. I've been in kind of a artistic rut, even with my music and everything. I did think I played a pretty good set last week, but and my DJing stuff, but it's hard. It's hard times right now. Send me good things. Send me good things to talk about, because I want to talk about good things, okay? And please, you know, if you like my channel, subscribe, you know, leave comments, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, you know, check out my business line. You know, I'm in talks with some pretty popular people to have as guests. And I hope that, you know, we can make that happen, and some of these people can make the time, because they are all very busy people. And I can make this informative channel for everybody that's not just talking about politics, that's not just talking about trans issues, but a lot of, you know, important issues, but we can make this channel fun. Okay? I appreciate you all. Like, subscribe. Thank you.